Hey, everybody. Okay, I'm back. I'm hoping the audio works now. It looks like it is. We had a bit of a bugaboo going there on it. So I have now a new link that we're sharing around. I'm going to put it out on the Telegram channel, which is here. Updated link due to technical glitch. Whoop. So anybody who is on here and sees that and can share it, I'd really appreciate it if you hop over to MeWe and to the Facebook group and, let them know. Can you hear me now? Yes, Ray can hear me now. Okay. So, take two. We're going to do a Q&A session today about just creating your life plan. I have a couple questions in that came in throughout the week last week, just a couple. And then we're going to do this live on YouTube so that my YouTube people can ask questions as well. I'm actually looking forward to the day, though, that Odyssey has live streams. But with that, I am also going to be recording the podcast on GarageBand over there while talking to you here. If you have questions, they're actually to my side. I may move the live stream screen in front of my face, because I have two monitors here. So, but if you have questions or have comments, just do them in all caps. I appreciate y'all telling me that I had no sound and I had sound and I had no sound. And yeah, it was kind of my fault. This is a phantom power mic, which means you add extra power to the mic. It's a condenser mic. And there's a button on my Focusrite that I hit. And then when I'm done, I turn it off so the mic's not just on all the time. And I hadn't turned it on, and then I did turn it on, and then my entire system got super confused. So my bad on that. Is one of you able to put the linky poo on the MeWe chat, MeWe group? That'd be great. And maybe in the comments of my post I put in. Okay. I am going to launch into the podcast now. You'll get to hear all the intro segments. You guys are a lucky bunch. You are. Well, welcome everyone to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you want to live on your terms. Today is Monday, November 23rd, 2020, and this is episode 367 of Living Free in Tennessee. And today I have a bit of a hybrid show going on. We are live on YouTube, and I will be taking questions live on YouTube. And I'm also recording this for the audio podcast. So it's like a twofer today. The last few Mondays, we've been discussing the process of developing your life's vision and your purpose. We actually started with purpose and then did vision because I find it easier to do it that way. I don't know why, it just is. And I've had a few questions come in as they dive in, as y'all dive into building your life strategic plan. So I'm going to take questions today. Also, I am pushing off of traditional, AKA old social media platforms as they implode on themselves. It's been a dumpster fire on Facebook for a long time. I through careful selection of what I react to, I don't see the dumpster fire all the time, but those platforms have been imploding as they implement more and more controls on discourse and disagreement, and as they enable the bullying process of shutting people up. And I just think it's wrong. So we made the move a little over a year ago to MeWe, and our group there, the Living Free in Tennessee group there, is happening. That's where you probably get the most of your interaction. Although I noticed Telegram's been blowing up. Haven't kept up with that, guys. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, you guys are having a good time talking to each other. I like to see that. So I just wanted to mention that you can find me, Nicole Sauce, on Parler, which is the Twitter alternative. Living Free in Tennessee's YouTube alternative channel is on Odyssey. That's Odyssee. Just search for Living Free in Tennessee. Or you can also find me on MeWe, which is the Facebook alternative. That's Living Free in Tennessee is the group there as well. I've put links to those in the show notes. There's also in the Odyssey, the link to the Odyssey one. It's an invitation code that gives us both some credit, because the way Odyssey works is underlying it, there are like cryptocurrency credits. So that's part of the fun. And I'm getting a funny comment from YouTube. We should get MeWe tattoos. No tattoos. No tattoos. I'm not tattooing a vaccine on my arm, and I'm not tattooing MeWe on my arm either. It's just the way it's going to be, or anywhere else. let's just not go there. Anyway, if you want to connect with some of these alternative platforms, I have all the links at the beginning of the show notes so you kind of see where we're at. And then the other thing I want to say, if you do that, is you're going to get there and it's not going to be very cool. Yeah, that's what I said. It's not going to be very cool until you have friends and connections and groups. You're not going to see anything. That's the way those work. They don't have a magic algorithm that's putting things up that they think you should see. So just know that you will get as much out of those platforms as you put into them. I am so thankful that we as a community put a bunch of effort into MeWe as Facebook continues to close people down for having opinions. Also, this week, it's Thanksgiving week. And on Wednesday, I'm going to do a show about like all the recipes we're trying out. We're doing a lot of keto or low carb stuff. And Jenny and I have been doing a bunch of like digging on what we're going to do for different recipes. We also have fun allergies like dairy in the network here, like the immediate community of people who are going to be at Thanksgiving. So I will do a different kind of recipe show. I'm still doing my chestnut dressing, which is not keto friendly. Like chestnuts are carbs, right? But it is a holiday. I'm going to go higher than 20 carbs on Thanksgiving Day. And I'm also going to have one glass of port because I've been looking forward to the glass of port. But what I've noticed is if you drink any alcohol on keto, it's kind of like headache city. And with the amount of Christmas orders we have coming in, like, whoo, I decided no alcohol for Nicole for a while. Anyway, Unloose the Goose will record live Wednesday at 4 p.m. I believe we're going to be doing a show on community and talk about mutual aid concepts, those sorts of things, as well as do sort of a rundown of Jack's workshop, because I believe John Bush will be on that one as well as CJ. So come and join us there. Also, if you're like, you can't get enough of me alone, you can see me in a group on the Unloose the Goose live stream. Okay. Before I go into our regular segments, I do want to remind you what my email is. If you have comments, questions, whatever, Nicole and I COLE at livingfreeintennessee.com, or head over to my website, livingfreeintennessee.com, click on contact, and you can get me there. So with that, it's time for our first segment, Tales from the Prepper Pantry. And this is where we talk about this astounding concept of storing what you eat and eating what you store. Right now, my face itches. Now, right now, we are heading into lockdowns in different parts of the country. We kind of saw this coming for a while. There have been shortages. And once again, people are making toilet paper forts and paper towel forts. So those things are running out at the grocery store. Hopefully you stocked up, right? If you know how much toilet paper you use, you can make a 6-month cushion pretty easily, and you can build your own toilet paper fort anytime you want. Anyway, what's going on in my pantry this week? First of all, we're rejiggering how and where things are stored, and that's as the Holler neighborhood starts collaborating more. We're talking about where things go because there are more places to put things, which is super cool when you're working on a pantry as a community. We are doing a keto Thanksgiving, which we'll talk about Wednesday, and I have way too many boxes of white potatoes. So if you're in Tennessee and need white potatoes, we need to talk. I'm going to give somebody a box on Wednesday. I have at least one more box I need to get rid of, and maybe 2 more boxes, because while I do eat some potato on keto, like a third of a potato, right, in a day, not going through the potatoes. Now, if we were to run out of all other food, I would totally eat potatoes, but that's not where we're at. The boys put 27 more chickens into the freezer this week. They spent all weekend processing them, and they were 7 and 8 pound birds. So they went an extra week or 2 because of how the cycle of the birds fell in the cycle of people being home to process birds. And yeah, they're huge. We had to cut them in half to vacuum pack them. Like, we cut all the birds in half. I didn't really help much, except for on the first day, I showed them how to cut the birds in half easily. And then I showed them how to use our new vacuum sealer, which is a cryovac machine. And so we put, 27, it's like twice as many packages into the freezer. And we are getting ready. We're doing the freezer reorganization to get ready for the cow that comes mid-December. With that, I'm seeing a lot of beef left. So we'll be thinking about how we're going to use up the beef, how much beef is left, that sort of thing. And then I am we're at that time where we consume from the pantry more than put things in it. So I'm hitting what I do is hit things that I froze and didn't can, those get eaten first. That's how we make room for the cow, right? So hitting sort of those freezer vegetables, things that ended up in my freezers were like I had some green beans that I bought to process, didn't get started soon enough. So they weren't bad, but I was like, I don't want to put old green beans in a jar, right? So I ended up freezing them, like blanching them and freezing them, and those will start coming out and getting served this week, even though we already have Thanksgiving just around the corner when we will then have an insurmountable pile of leftovers. Probably not actually with as many of us as there are here. We may have some leftovers, we'll see. I love leftover turkey. Maybe I should cook 2 turkeys. Good question. Okay, next segment is Operation Independence. This is where we talk about building stability, like financial stability into our lives, as well as ways we can avoid spending money to so that we don't have to earn it. That. And the chickens, of course, are the biggest Operation Independence thing. When Tactical and Nighthawk said they wanted to do a second round of chickens, they were looking sort of long term at we think there's going to be more shutdowns. We think there's going to be weird turbulence around the election, and it may impact supply chains. So let's raise some more birds. And so I said, that's great, but I am going into coffee roasting season. Like, in addition to the crowdfunder, this time of year through probably around December 19th or so, I roast all day long as much as I can because people love to give coffee for Christmas gifts. In fact, if you need a good gift idea, hollowroast.com, right? Well, sorry, I could not avoid the shameless plug on that one. But what that means is I don't have a lot of time to grow plants or play with birds or show people how to use the cryovac machine or, all of that. And so they said, well, I said, so if you're doing it, it's all you, it's not me. And they had a talk and they decided to do that. And that means that we have twice as much chicken as we thought we would, which is kind of nice, especially as we indeed have seen another round of shutdowns. The thing I noticed about the shutdowns, though, is like this time people aren't too keen on it. And it's kind of resulted in the opposite of what one would want in a like if you're worried about the virus. What you want when you have a virus that you're worried about spreading is to kind of control it, get people the care they need, and keep it from spreading. When they're doing the lockdowns, what's happening and the quarantines and different work policies that are coming up around this whole COVID thing, people aren't getting tested because they don't want to admit and or aren't admitting when they have it. So now people don't want to say they have it, which makes it easier to get, like, harder to you see what I'm saying? Like, if we could have all just talked like adults about who this is most likely to negatively impact and spent some time trying to protect those people and fostered a culture where you can say you're sick and not have to go to work, right? And where, like, if you're exposed to COVID, you can go talk to all the people you were in contact with and let them know. And you didn't have to then go get tested and then get tested 9 more times, right? And then all the contact tracing and threats of being arrested and all that crap. Maybe it would be easier to control. I don't know. Just a thought. Maybe we need to be forced into our houses and shackled. I don't know. It's kind of become a lunacy sort of situation at this point. The other part of so that's my biggest side on Operation Independence. The other part of Operation Independence, back to the point, Nicole, is I've been 110 or 120% on Christmas coffee. I do labels until I can't look at my computer anymore. I put a compress on my eyes before bed. I read until I fall asleep. I've been reading the same novel for 3 weeks. I usually go through a novel or 2 a week, so it's just been collapsing every day. It's been great. I really wanna get the rest of the, crowdfunding orders out this week, and I have some corporate orders in, so it's just been a really fun time, and then, of course, people are starting to order gifts for their friends because you can go to hollowroast.com and order gifts, and sometime in the next few hours, I believe, because my phone just rang from the person who's helping with me with this. We're going to change how we do gift wrap coffee. Right now, we have gift coffee. It's Holler Roast. It's a special product, and it ships with a card that's written. We're going to add, instead of just having that one product, we're going to make it so any coffee can be gift wrapped as an add-on. So that's our big thing, and it's taken like 3 days. We've been working on this, so that'll go out. And then I will hold back mailing until after the 1st of December, but the way the mail's been going, it's gonna be the 1st week of December if I can arrange it, and I will not mail anything on the Monday following Black Friday, because last year when I did that, those packages took 2 to 3 weeks to get places, and things that went out on Tuesday of that week did fine. It was almost as if the post office was, like, cutting their losses, knowing that was gonna be late, and then they just tried to keep up on everything else. Okay, so that's Operation Independence. With that, it is time for the main topic of today's show, and that's the life plan Q&A session. So the background on this is a couple of Mondays ago, 3 Mondays ago, I I had somebody like kind of confused about my 3 things and how that all works and getting ahead. And I said, let's do this one Monday at a time. So you have a week in between and you can use your journal or talking to your phone or however you best process information. And we'll talk first about how to define your life purpose. And I think when I say define, right? When I say define, I don't mean that it's going to be set in stone, especially not out of the chute, right? So, but to at least define your why and like what you're doing. And then we went on to vision, right? And that was the so what. And in between there was a Monday off because I was at Jack's event and I didn't want to commit. I didn't want to do like a crappy version of how to develop your vision, basically. And I knew I'd be like flying, tired, distracted, like nervous about the event coming up, all of that stuff. So we took that Monday off. And last week, as I was going through the Vision podcast, I just realized that we should do a Q&A. So I'm hoping those of you who are on the live chat on YouTube have spent some time defining your purpose and your vision. And remember, it's a rolling process, okay? Because our next step next Monday are the strategies to get there. So I put out, hey, if you have any questions, let me know. So this first question, so guys on the YouTube live stream, if you have questions about developing a vision or purpose, you just put them in all caps and I will build them into the show as best I can. But the first question I have is from Crystal, and she says, I'm struggling with the deep indoctrination by my parents and schools that there's only one right way to do life. To go to college, get a good job, work for someone else, start living when you retire has been beaten into my brain. And so hard that even though I see people living happy, successful lives on their terms, there is still a strong built in fear that tells me it won't work. Not sure if you have insight you'd like to offer on that vein. I know the standard American dream we're taught isn't the only way, that our world is changing. Oh, and that our world is changing so much, it's become harder for people to achieve. Just trying to get over this mental hurdle. Well, Crystal, I'm glad you know that's a mental hurdle because I think at the core of that is it's a roadmap that is well intentioned, right, by your parents. Live this way and you will have a good life. It's kind of like if you don't get pregnant before you finish high school, you're more likely to have more income later. There's studies that show that. If you don't get pregnant or get somebody pregnant, um, you're more likely if you finish high school before you get married. Also, if you get married in high school and get pregnant, it's still, whatever. Um, if you have a child in your life before you finish high school, it's harder to get ahead because at the same time that you're just starting your first jobs and showing, um, working through an uptick, like the promotion level, you also have a child at home, and children take time, right? And they found that people who graduate high school and then get married and have children have a tendency to have higher incomes. That doesn't mean if you had a child in high school that you could not get ahead, right? It just means that it's harder. And so there's that, like, that's a template, right? And so the template that has been shoved down our throats for the whole time you and I were growing up was that you go to college, you get a job, you work hard, you retire, and then you start living. The problem with that model isn't that it never worked before. It has worked before. It worked much better when people went not everybody could go to college, right? You couldn't get in. There was a time when not everybody could go to college. You had to achieve academically in certain ways, and that has changed, right? I mean, it is possible to not make it into college, but college has changed a lot. It is no longer the academic rigorous thing that it used to be. Like, even when I was in college, I it's harder then than it is now. That doesn't mean there aren't rigorous programs, right? It just means that there's been this sort of, as that's become the template that everybody must be pushed towards, there's been this softening. And then that means that by the time you come out of college, you may or may not be equipped for what your boss wants, right? The other thing that's happened is companies, I think, are coming and going faster. I don't know this for sure though, but it's not unusual that you in your lifetime will be laid off several times. There was a time where you could kind of count on, it's funny because it hasn't been that way all through history. There was a time where you could kind of count on, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to work the same company and work my way up in that company until I retire. And then I'm going to have this awesome retirement. That might have been true in the 50s, but throughout my childhood, my dad worked 20 years at the same place. It changed owners twice, and then he left that and went on to 3 or 4 more jobs. So that whole thing has changed. The other problem with the template, and I'm seeing it on the YouTube, is debt. We're putting people in college who pay money to go to college that they have to borrow because college is so expensive you can no longer hold down a job and go to college, which was a thing that could be done in the 70s, right? Um, and when you come out of college with a house payment, it's harder to start. It's just harder to start. So, addressing the mindset is something only you can do. It's something only you can do. Probably the first thing you need to stop doing is talking to your parents about it. If your parents are still in your life, they're probably pushing that you need to live the right way. And it's unfortunate, but sometimes when we need to make changes, we need to cut off those topics from the people who are standing in the way of us making those changes. Two, um, your way working for somebody might be right, but I know what industry you're in, and I don't think it is because your industry is dying. So if you're gonna make your way, you need to think about your industry and how that works for you and how you're going to define your own niche so that you're not left behind as your industry dies, because your industry has sped up dying this year. And it's scary, right? But I know you and I know you're a quality person and you do quality work and that you can figure that out. But if you're always staying attached to having a job in that industry, it's a dying industry means turbulence, and turbulence means insecurity. So that's actually more insecure probably than taking freelance work for the kind of work that you do. Because at least with the freelance work, as long as you keep those connections and keep reaching out, you're likely to do it. And if you're willing to pivot from sort of that local focus to sort of more national, or finding, like a homesteading niche or whatever it is, prepper niche or firearms niche, like that'd be really cool for you, by the way, if you were focusing on firearms from the woman's perspective, just saying. Might be interesting. Firearms training. And I know cancel culture, you're going to be screwed, right? When the people who don't like the guns come at you, but that's not that important. So I think dealing with the mentality takes a commitment from you to deal with the mentality and really ask yourself why you've bought into that template. Why have you bought into that template? And has following that template made you happy before? Were you happy when you were following it before? And if you weren't happy when you were following it before and you have broken out, Well, are you happier not following that template, or are you still unhappy? In which case, have you gone back to your purpose, and are you actually moving towards your purpose, or is what your trade is, whether you be working for somebody or working for yourself, is that really moving you towards your long-term life purpose and vision? I think as you define the purpose and vision, you may find that what you're gonna be doing is knitting lamb's ears and selling them. No, I don't know. But you see what I'm saying, right? You may have spent a lifetime working in the field that you're in and discover that you want to build another thing. Like, if you would have asked me in college if I was gonna end up roasting coffee for money, I would have said no. I did well in school, right? I also have a cat who wants out, so I'm gonna pause this recording. Holy crumbs! Dude! He needs to get out of my office. Jeez. All I'm hearing is like thunka 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 of the cat on my keyboard. Ugh, this is what it's like to record my podcast. You need to do a sweep of your office and make sure all the animals are out. Okay, where was I? I'm gonna have to go back and edit that. Do do do. Oh, that means I need to turn some audio on so I can hear what in the world I was saying. I did well in school, right? Okay, I did well in school was the last thing I said. See, the fun part of the live stream is that you get to, watch me have my fit when things go wrong. Hard is not impossible, but planned families work better. Yes. Right. And sometimes you just end up with the kid you end up with, right? Yep. If you asked me in college if I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, they would have thought you lost your mind. Exactly. Okay, so I just said, what did I just say? Guys, remind me. I just told you what I just said. It was about I did well in school. That's what it was. Okay. Here we go. So I was setting up for a more intellectual pursuit. That's why I worked in public policy for a while. And that's why I went down a much more um, intellectual path until I found homesteading. And I'm a very creative person and I need variety and change. And I feel really good when something's done all the way. I don't need something done all the way all the time, but these tangible orders of coffee or, putting in beds or raising animals, that sort of thing, that connection has freed up my mind to pursue its own like philosophical world without having to do that philosophical pursuit for money. So I still get everything I like, but if you would have asked me in college if that's what I was gonna do, I would have thought you were nuts because who needs to go to college to freaking roast coffee? You don't, right? You can go apprentice to a roaster and learn how to do it, and that's it. So I guess, Crystal, what I'm saying, and anybody else who has this same thing, is find out what about that deeply ingrained template is causing you fear and figure out what that fear really is. Because a lot of times when you look under the hood, it's going to be being judged by other people. The hard part about choosing to be free is you need to stop worrying about what other people think of you, right? It's what you think of you. And I know, yes, you have to include your family, but it's at the end of the day, if what you like to do is make cherry jam and sell it, and you can turn that into a six-figure income if you just concentrate on it, do that. Do that. That's what living free is all about. So hopefully that helps you with that. Next question I have is from Jeff. This one's very specific. If you moved into your parents' home or any home that's not what you wanted as a forever home, where would you concentrate your efforts? Jeff, this is a great question because a lot of people run into this issue. I have chosen to concentrate on building a library, both paper and ebooks, and I garden and keep chickens. I'm concentrating on knowledge and skills instead of investing in infrastructure here. Mom's cancer has a 40% survival rate at the 5-year mark. It's been 5 years. 3 months ago, they found a spot on her good lung. She may have 1 year or 20, but either way, I'm with her. Okay. So, really, at the core of this question, I think, as relates to developing your life vision and purpose, is but what if where I'm at isn't where I want to be? Is that really true? I guess if you're in if you're a country boy and you want 20 acres or something, and instead you're living in a condo in the city, that's a thing. Where should you put your time? Obviously not putting infrastructure there. But if you're like a country boy and you want to live on 20 acres and your mom has a house in 2 acres or 1 acre even, should you put infrastructure in? Really good question. If you put infrastructure in that increases the value of the home, right? Do it in a way that increases the value of the home and or in a way that's very easy to move. An example of this would be a chicken tractor, right? You can move a chicken tractor. If you know that after your mom dies, you're going to spend some time working through the affairs, sell the estate, and then go move to where you really want to be, then a chicken tractor can be moved to where you want to be. And fencing is something you need if what part of your lifestyle is fostering livestock off the land. So a good fence actually can make it more appealing to somebody else who buys that house and the acre, right? And then look inside the house at ways you can make it better for you and for her and for the resale value. I know a lot of people who end up living quote unquote where they don't want to. And then as they make it more into something that both has good resale value and is something they love, find out they don't want to move later. And that's not bad. Like if you can have the lifestyle you want on that house in 1 acre or house in 5 acres, and for the next 20 years, because you're going to be with your mom till the end, you get that done. That's not bad, right? It's a model. I think a lot of times we get hung up in the what it is that I have, rather than the why I live and the so what. Like, what does it all mean once I do it? And if you can get those two things going, then where you live, while important, doesn't have to be the Holler Homestead in Middle Tennessee, right? Like, I literally could move from the Holler Homestead in Middle Tennessee into a similarly set up situation and be perfectly happy. I mean, my neighbors might be really mad because they're all here now in this community, but it is what it is, right? So it's funny because I was going through and writing the characteristics of what I want in how I live, and while the Holler homestead does fill most of it, it doesn't fill all of it. First of all, I don't like my house. I just live in my house. But secondly, I realized that I could find those things in many, many places. Not all of them in this country, right? And not all of them in Tennessee. Like, I could go back to Oregon if I needed to, and that might happen if my parents get sick there, right? I hope not, because Oregon's crazy right now, but maybe the state of Jefferson will exist and I can go back to the state of Jefferson. That would be great. So I guess my advice, Jeff, is find things that if you're going to do it, improve the value of the house and your life and your mom's life now. Do things that are portable infrastructure wise, like chickens. And then think about what it is about there that's not the right thing for you. Because you may find that you may want that after all. Oh, Electronet fencing. Somebody on the YouTube also mentioned Electronet fencing if you're going to be doing some of those things that you can move around. So those are the questions I have from like in advance. If anybody on YouTube has questions they want to give me, now is a good time. I do have one last question before I go to the YouTube questions, but somebody asked me when I'm going to turn this into a book. Letty did. And the truth of the matter is I've already started writing the book. I started writing the book a year ago. I have all of the chapters and like the outline for the book. And what I lack is undistracted time to write it. And I know like it's November is like nano month or whatever. November is coffee roasting month for Nicole. I roast coffee till I can't. And my plan on the book is to schedule some time completely away where I can focus on it because that's how I got the cookbook done. Like if I'm able to focus on it, I do better than if I do a little bit every day. And I know that goes counter to how other people work. But if I'm sitting at my computer in the homestead, I will start thinking around on social and talking to y'all. If I go somewhere, like it's just a change for me, it's a change of environment that that makes it really important for me, right? My head works one way in my office, it works a different way at my dining room table, it works a different way in my roasting shed, it works a different way on a walk. Sometimes when I have a big hairy audacious writing goal, right? I need to bang out a couple of 100 pages on something and I've done the research. I find that sitting in my office is counter like, I just can't do it in my office, like, I can't do it in here. I'm gonna look around, I'm gonna see that the bed's unmade over there because I had guests and I did sheets and I haven't put them back on, and that the clothes that are in the dresser behind me are cattywompish, and then I'll start doing my books instead. Like, I hate doing books. I will start doing my books instead of writing the book, which is hilarious because I hate clerical work, but it's kinda like writing a song. When I write a song, it niggles at me, niggles at me, niggles at me till I sit down and do it. Books do the same thing. And so I will turn it into a book. It's certainly not a 2020 thing. I thought it was going to be a 2020 thing. Let's pull for 2021. And of course, I have advice from the Nano lady on the YouTube channel saying, record it on your phone. You know what's funny is in the notes of my podcast on this topic, I have enough stuff that I could almost hand it over to a ghostwriter, but I really, really, really want to write it. So that's my plan on the book. If we don't have any other questions, I'm going to wrap the show up, which means I'm going to pause the recording because people don't want to hear me talking back and forth to y'all on YouTube. Do you guys have any more questions about developing your purpose or vision? Have you developed your purpose or vision? I can tell you, like, we had a Holler family meeting on Sunday, and I wrote down the vision and purpose I've been using on the podcast. And I was like, so for those of you behind on my podcast, this is our vision and purpose. What do you think? And nobody's changed it yet, but I'm sure if they think about it, they will. It's it's just kind of funny because I was like, make sure you sit down as a group and do this. And I'm like, this is what it is because we've talked about these things on and off, but just not in that context. I wrote the business plan for the Holler years ago. It hasn't really changed much, except for I'm more defined on who I'm targeting, who we're trying to get in here. And that's kind of the fun. So it looks like we don't have any questions on YouTube. I'm gonna have to listen to what I said right before I hung up. If we don't have any other questions, I'm gonna wrap the show up. Oh, I'm gonna wrap the show up. Anyway, I hope this clarified. Those two questions are really good ones, especially like what if life puts you somewhere where you don't think is the right step towards your vision, which was the second question, or what if your head is getting in your way, which is the first question. Head's always getting in the way, and the environment in which you live is what it is, right? You have to learn how to use that and still move forward. So I think this process is really important. Next Monday, we'll be talking about finding the 3 most important things you can do to move you towards your vision and purpose over the next 12 to 18 months. It's going to be your 3 big strategies. And based on that, then the one after that will be your commitments, which will then fold into your my 3 things that you do online for accountability, right? We post my 3 things every day. I'm going to get up to these 3 things, do or die done every day that moves my life where I want it to go. And it's pretty much where we want to be so that we can move. I'm just like blathering on my podcast. Why am I blathering on my podcast? You guys are seeing all the outtakes today. I used to record these and send them to my buddy David. Sometimes it's like you end a sentence and then you just keep talking. Not a good idea. Yeah. See, I thought I had a good ending like 2 words ago. Yeah. See, where I want it to go. That's where I should have ended it. And I was like, blah, 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 blah. It's probably because I'm on video. Um, but every so often, you should actually see me when I get really mad at myself for the stuff. I've done like half a show and been like, "This is the biggest load of crap I've ever done," and then I like go back and change the topic and re-record the whole thing. Um, but I've never done that on a live video for YouTube. So then we go to edit, split regions at playhead. Boom, gone. So that's the reality of recording the podcast, guys. It's time for me to do the close up on the podcast. If you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee and your coffee Christmas presents at hollowroast.com. We are rolling out gift options. We have 5 across the top of the page right now, and we'll be adding a gift wrapping option, not just for the gift coffee, but for all coffee products. The other way you can support me is go over to livingfreeintennessee.com and click on membership, become a member. Consider doing that before the end of the year. And yeah, go out, make it a great week. I do that wrap up every single episode. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining the live stream. I hope you enjoyed it tonight and you got to see me have my fit about the cat. The darn cat. Oh, yeah. He does that to me a lot. There's a second redhead, like orange cat that does that to me too. Sometimes they're both in here and it gets really loud. So I'm going to sign off for now and get this out before my 7 o'clock choir starts. Holy cow.